Well guys, I'm in the location that I'm actually going to wild camp now. It's not my chosen location. Everything's kind of gone a little bit wrong tonight. I left late to go to camp because of things happening at home, and when I got to where I wanted to camp, the area had been trashed and it was a wash of people barbecuing in that whole area, and yeah, people everywhere milling about. It is a reasonably well-known area, so you could argue I made a big mistake there, but I did actually think that if I got far enough out the way I would be safe, but I was evidently wrong. And yeah, so overcome and adapt. So I've chosen a favourite area of mine, a backup area that never fails to let me down on one point, and that is there's never anybody around. So I'm going to get a shelter up, then think about getting a cup of coffee on the go. I kind of need it, and I won't lie to you, I was on the verge because we're losing light of chinning this totally off tonight, but I couldn't really because it's my boy's birthday tomorrow and I wouldn't get out in the evening then. So yeah, this is probably my only option for a wild camp in the UK for a couple of weeks. So it was now or never. So I've decided to grin and bear it, man up, deal with the situation and make the best of what I've got here. And it isn't too shabby. Let's get a shelter up. Right, you can see I've got a ground hugging A-frame where I just rise that top last quarter of the actual basher just to give me a little room to administer myself in there. But because it's on a bit of a slope, I will have my head there. I don't have to worry about condensation because it's warm. But why I want to keep it down on that end is because the wind is coming from that direction, and there has been rain today and there's a threat of rain overnight. So with it down like that, at least it should give me some better protection. But that's a theory. But I'm going to get my burner set up and get something or get a drink on the go. Yeah, I've really got to start to feel this camp at the moment because of everything that's happened. It just feels like, well, even putting that basher up, that felt a struggle in itself. The most simple setup that you could possibly do. It just felt a right drama. And yeah, even people like myself who, you know, pride themselves on saying they're outdoors people, it can still turn into a bit of a drama. Well, while my coffee was actually boiling and getting ready to drink, I decided to change the layout of my tarp, quite simply because I thought to myself, I will be getting up in the night to go for a pee. There's very few nights I don't, so I'm going to struggle with my head that close to it. I don't, to the top of the tarp, I don't have to be tactical or stealthy. I'm in the middle of a moorland, there's nobody here. So I've raised it a couple feet higher and I've leveled it at the head end to give me more room. But yeah, even this simple setup here, yet again I had dramas, slipping over, tying it off to the barbed wire fence, and I ended up sitting there and almost going, this just is not going right, this camp. And there's a fine line between a camp not going right or where you should think about packing up and going home. And I really am borderline at the moment. So I'm hoping this coffee will change things. I'm hoping it will turn a corner now. But yeah, I'll give you a little insight or a little look and see how much I've raised it. So there you go. You can see how much room I've got there now. I've just got to taut or tighten up the actual bungee straps there. But you can get an idea how much more room I've got than I had earlier. But I want a cup of coffee before I kind of throw my toys out of the pram. Right, I think I'm all set up. I've even blowed up the air mattress just so I don't have a flaff when it gets a bit darker. The problem is, like I was saying to you, because I got out late, I don't have a lot of time to, you know, that's the beauty if you can get into your wild camping spot with a bit of time to allow for things to go wrong and for you to be able to rectify them or move to a new location and then calm down and get into the camp, if you know what I mean. What I've done here now is rushed around, failed attempt to set up in my other location, come here, rushed into location, set up a shelter, hurriedly with not much thought, not in the best frame of mind, and then, you know, started doing things around camp and then decided to change my shelter again. And yet again, that didn't go 100% to plan, even though it's the most basic setup ever. So now I've got my coffee, I'm relaxing, but it's at that time of day when you would be getting into the nighttime routine. And all I'm doing now is trying to get into the relaxing camp frame of mind. But it will happen. I'm beginning to calm. I can feel my heart rate dropping already. Yeah, that's this has been the most difficult wild camp I've had possibly in probably a couple years. I can't think of one where I've ended up rushing where it's all gone wrong like this. But hey, it has to happen at some point. Oh no, I can think of one I had to leave when I was staying in the shelter in one of my first bushcraft shelters. I had to leave the woods because the weather forecast was wrong. We were supposed to have windy conditions, but it turned into sort of like, well, almost bordering on gale force conditions. So I had to leave the woodland. But that's all I need tonight, so fingers crossed we haven't got that. Well, I just put the phone down after talking to you then, and I heard an almighty crash, and I actually watched a branch drop off a tree. It is all going wrong. I'll let you have a look. It's not the biggest one you could think of, but where's it come from? Oh, up there. It would have given you a clonk on the head, but it's landed on the hedge. There we go. That one there. There. It's looking like, I think it's come off that one there. It's come off that one. Oh well, that's something else for me to worry about. At least camp is set up. So what have I got for tea tonight? I do actually have a bit of tiger bread and I've got a chunky soup, which I'm going to get on the go now because not only am I a little bit hungry, it's get well past tea time now, and yeah, yet again another thing I don't want to be doing in the dark. So let's get tea on the go. And in the spirit of my channel, we're camping with whatever we can pull out the cupboards or off the Tesco's or supermarket shelves. It's not just Tesco, I do use them all, but I thought I'll try this one. And it's a Tesco's chunky, what's it? Tuscan inspired bean soup, and it's warmly spiced. What's not to like for about £1.20? I haven't had to pay, you know, £7-8 for a pouch of food. So I've got this and yeah, some Tesco's Tiger bread. It says batten, but that's bread. And in the morning I've got a golden syrup flapjack. I do have to be away quick, so yeah, let's get this on the go. Well, it's looking really thick anyway. Is that it all? A little bit more. Get it all in. I'm a hungry boy. Yeah, that's done. Right. It does look thick. Now, I've said it many times on this channel, if you're just doing an overnighter like me, on this occasion, and what a majority of my wild camps are, just overnighters, you can't beat, you know, for economy, just doing something like this. Either getting an all-day breakfast can, or ravioli in a tin, chili con carne, you know, beef stews, or something like what I've got here, like a real thick can of soup and a bit of bread. Because if you really do get into wild camping and you start going down the route of the dehydrated meals, or the actual adventure meals and things like that, pre-packed, it can get expensive. Obviously they do come with their advantages, and I've outlined them many a time, and when I'm on the trail I do use them. But for an overnighter, guys, you can't go wrong just picking up something in your local supermarket shelf and just getting out there. It doesn't take much more to clean up after yourself, and it'll save you a fortune. That's really spicy. And a bit of bread. That'll keep me going through the night. That's nice. Simple filling, and it's got everything it needs to get you through the night and not feel hungry. You know, like waking up at 3 in the morning feeling hungry, like you want to go downstairs and raid your kitchen cupboards. Right then, back in the, I think it was late 70s, possibly early 80s, there was a cartoon based around a load of characters in a woodland, and it was called Willow the Wisp, and they got up to all sorts of antics. It was a very simple format, and it was a cartoon that kept us of our generation entertained. We were simple back then, we didn't want for much. But there was substance to it, because it was based around folklore and tradition, and the actual folklore in question is in the title, Willow the Wisp. Willow the Wisp is basically lights over moors, bogs, woodland, high ground, watercourses, marshes and of the such. And these lights would move and dance and entice travellers to stray off the path and follow them. Some people say they were just mischievous, and some people would say they were callous, cruel, and would lead the traveller to ultimately their death, you know, being drowned in a bog or a mire. But all parts of the UK have a kind of version of Willow the wisp, and we're no different down here in Cornwall. We have our own version. Now, some people will believe that it's the souls of the dead, these lights that are hovering over the marshes, watercourses, and in the woodlands, flitting between trees. These are the lights, you know, that entice you to follow them. Now, and other people believe that they're fairies. Down here, we predominantly believe that it's pixies, or more precisely jack-o'-lantern, and he is the king of the pixies. Now, he himself, he's the bad one. Following jack-o'-lantern could lead you to your death or lead you into a dangerous situation. He has no worries about doing that. In fact, he finds it fun to do that. He's mischievous like that. But he does have a queen, the queen of the pixies, and that's Joan of Wade. Now, she is the good one, and I believe her last part of the name, Wade or Wad, is a form of wordage for torch. So that obviously ties into the lights floating over the marshes and that. But she is the good one. If you've got her and you're following her light, you will be led to safety, and if you follow her back onto the trail, and you can make your way onwards, you know, with no incident. But jack-o'-lantern, he's a different kettle of fish. He's out to do mischief and do harm, and quite often she can be in stories and that, actually chastising her husband for doing that, being mischievous like that, and she'll guide people on their way to safety. And yeah, so that's the king and queen of pixies. Yeah, down here we believe pixies are Willow the wisp. Now, the thing is, if you've ever been wandering around up on the moors and in the marshes and the bogs and on the trails through the ancient woodlands, it doesn't take much for your imagination to fire up and actually start thinking, if you see a light twinkling in the distance, is that Willow the wisp? It doesn't really take much to make you start reliving and rethinking or retelling those stories in your mind. It's very easily done. And after all, years ago, people travelling on the footpaths up here on the moors and things like that would go missing and never be seen again. So it's very easy for these stories to, you know, be relived and retold and kept alive. But yeah, it's just part of our folklore down here. If you're up here on the moors, be careful of the lights and be careful of the bogs and marshes. Don't leave the path. Now, I have to say that people countering the folklore and superstition surrounding Willow the wisp will say that it's methane or rotting vegetable and animal matter from the actual marshes igniting, producing these lights, or insects with you know, bioluminescent fluorescent capability. Even lights even further off in the distance reflecting off water or things like that, and even celestial lights that are on the horizon just moving through a woodland if you're on the rise, beginning to go over, crest over a hill, or even out on the marshes. People do say that there is an explanation for these lights, but when you're in places like this, I always say folklore really does stand right at the front and centre of your mind when you're out here. And it's been there forever and a day. It does seem to be losing traction now in the modern world, but some of us just have a little bit of an interest in it and try to keep it alive. Well, we haven't got long before we actually lose light, and the wind has picked up in here quite significantly, and it's got a cold bite. I've had to put my jacket on quite simply to stave off that wind chill, but I've got a feeling we may see a spot of rain. But in the distance, talking about lights, I can just see two lights twinkling away down in the valley. I'm not tempted to follow them though. There you go, two lights twinkling off in the distance, centre of the screen. You can see it's getting dark in here now. I'm having a coffee, and I'm going to have one of those oat cakes. I do feel a bit peckish, and that'll be me climbing into my sleeping bag on that air mat. I'll whiz around on the internet as I always do, and then that'll be me done. So was it worth, coming here when everything was going wrong and I could have easily bailed on the camp? Well, I'm glad I stayed, because it's turned out the last hour, an hour and a half, I've really enjoyed it, settled into it, and this is one of my favourite places to do a wild camp. And I love this little piece of woodland. It's just off the moors, it's got that old world vibe, and yeah, I really love being in here. And I probably won't get back in here for a little while now, so it's been good to do it. And I'm looking forward to being up here in the morning and wake up with the woodland. So yeah, I'm glad I've done it. But I'm going to get this coffee and this oat cake eaten and the coffee drank. Then I'm definitely getting in that sleeping bag. I'm beginning to feel tired. And I guess it'll be see you guys in the morning, as long as I haven't been whisked away by Willow the wisp. Well, things ain't happening very fast around here. Yeah, I'm just slowly waking up into the day. I'm going to get up and get a cup of coffee on the go, and start thinking about getting off this hillside. The wind did get up last night, and my sleep system held up. I've got my lightweight summer one, but it did actually hold up. But now I've actually climbed out the sleeping bag, I can feel the wind whistling around the back of my neck. It is quite drafty, so it'll probably be a coat job for a few moments till I get acclimatized to the conditions up here. Right, I'll catch you in a minute. Well guys, it's just started to actually rain, so I've been extremely lucky. I've avoided that, and as long as I get back to the car, most of my kit has stayed dry, so that's going to be speed things up in packing stuff away and stowing it while I go away on holiday. But I've had some good news. Me and Jamie are going to be grandparents, so we got that to look forward to in the future. And I didn't get everything I wanted done video wise before heading off to Portugal, but that's stored in the memory banks and that'll be done when I get back. But thanks for coming along with me on this wild camp. It started off very haphazardly, nearly didn't happen, but pulled it out the bag, made it happen, and another one ticked off. Successful camp. So thanks for coming along. All that's left to be said is, as usual, take care, stay safe, and I hope to catch you guys on the trail. And talking of which, I've got to get on the trail and get out of here. Cheers.